Last time it was just exposition, and like now we know what Hogwarts is. I don't know, like I was more immersed.
When I think of this movie, the first thing that stands out is Dobby. I thought that I was going to hate this character, but by the end of it, I had fallen in love with him.
The line between good and evil is now blurred. I don't know whether, honestly, I can trust Hagrid. I know he's been a good guy so far, but this scene and this film clearly shows that anyone can be like in that gray area of good and evil. So yeah, I don't know where he'll end up.
This whole Mudblood kind of thing coming in, I almost feel like it's overall almost like social commentary for they're not like us, therefore they're bad. That is an overall commentary, social commentary about that.
Welcome everyone, I'm your host William Yelton, and today we'll be talking with 9 strangers who have just finished watching Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets for the first time. Unspoiled, as the rest of the franchise, these men and women will give us their raw reactions and opinions after watching the second film. At the end of the discussion, each panelist will rank this movie 1 to 10, and I will average up the results to give this movie the official rating provided by this panel. In the description box below, there are time codes to this discussion. If you like what you see, please click that like and subscribe button, because the majority of this panel will be back once a month to discuss the subsequent Harry Potter films. All right, now that we got that out of the way, without further ado, I present to you this episode of Who Needs a Film Critic?
Woo!
Okay, pun very much intended. It is no secret that overall this panel was not very impressed with the first film in the franchise. And since I just mentioned that, if anyone is watching this, you can click that link above and to see the first panel. So saying that, I imagine that many of you have similar gripes with this movie, which I would like to discuss at the end of the panel. Let's start off our discussion with the positives. What did we like about this second installment of the franchise? Who would like to start?
What I liked that was different, I think, from the first movie was it had a little bit of a horror vibe to it, where, you know, I guess it was the snake that he was listening. It was kill, as he's walking down the corridor, and he's trying to figure out, he's like, kill.
Darnell's freaking me out right now.
No, instead of like the whole kitty whimsy kind of thing that Sorcerer's Stone had, this definitely had some darker elements, because it was almost like horror movie-ish.
I found myself enjoying this one a lot more, because last time it was just exposition, and like now we know what Hogwarts is, what this magic does, like who these people are. Like I don't know, like I was more immersed, I guess you could say. I liked it a little bit more.
For me, when I think of this movie, the first thing that stands out is Dobby. Like that's just to me, just that whole character and the comedic aspect that was brought in. I think of this movie, that's like the first thing for me that stands out of why I really liked it.
Ben, I see you shaking your head when he brings up Dobby.
Yeah, I just hated Dobby. I hated him.
See?
I am going to be anti-Dobby.
I'll agree with that.
But I'm trying to figure out why. How can you not like Dobby? He's got his cute little voice. Mr. Harry Potter.
Jar Jar Banks level.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Jar Jar fucking Binks.
Well, this is interesting. We've had our first little debate. Raise your hand if you liked Dobby.
I need like a middle answer, like
I
a middle
just was
hand.
gonna say, I'm gonna raise it for each one.
Middle hand.
All right, Kiana.
Like them later.
All right, Kiana, let's hear. Why could you be swayed either way?
I like the elements that he brought to the movie, but he was just so frustrating, because he'd be like, "Oh, Harry Potter, don't do this." And he's like, "Oh, I can't say why. Like, just trust me." And it was like, either say it or get off the screen and let Harry do what he wants to do.
I'll preface it. His first scene, I thought that I was going to hate this character. It might have also been because, to me, the first 30 minutes of the movie was just, again, dragging on. So like that scene kind of put in there, I'm just like, oh, this is going to be another one, a Jar Jar Binks, an annoying character. But by the end of it, I had fallen in love with it. So
It was like that annoying little brother or friend, you know, that kind of sticks around. And then it kind of brought back like these feelings of like when you're, you know, a kid and you had that guy who had never like just annoyed you. But then like learning where he came from at the end, I kind of had a bit more empathy of like, okay, like he's obviously been with like the worst of the worst. And like, you know, so I kind of grew a bit there. There's a bit of that kind of tender side I saw in him. So
what is Dobby? What is he? Is he a rat thing, or what is he?
He was an elf.
He's an elf.
Oh, he's an elf.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Santa's elves. You know what elves are. Come on.
I mean, I
Oh,
hope
yeah.
Santa's elves don't look like that because
I,
that's kind of horrifying. But
I thought maybe he could be bad because even though he said, you shouldn't go back, you shouldn't go back. I was thinking, well, maybe it's he's trying to keep him from going back because they just don't want him there. He's on the, Voldemort side. And so I was just not liking him also because of that. I'm like, he's probably bad. And then annoying and beating himself up. That just, this is a kid's movie. But anyway.
The beating himself up makes a whole lot of sense when we learn like the way in which he's being treated by his owners, like just being purely abused all the way through. And so from his perspective, it's like, if I make a mistake, I have to beat myself up because of it. There has to be a consequence for this poor decision. But yeah, it was hard to watch him just punish himself for the smallest of things.
All right, well, if the first film was kind of a cheery introduction to the world of Hogwarts, I think it's fair to say that the second movie reveals the more darker elements of the castle. Throughout the film, we learn a lot more about the history of this school. However, we don't just hear about the history, we see it. Let's take a look at the first scene of the evening and then discuss.
Riddle! Is there something you wish to tell me?
No, sir.
Very well, then.
I'm going to have to turn you in, Hagrid. I can't let you go. They'll have your wand for this, Hagrid. You'll be expelled.
Hagrid!
So thoughts on either the scene or the characters or the information that we learn? Who wants to start us off?
I loved this scene because it proved to me that the line between good and evil is now blurred. Something within the first film that really annoyed me was how it was childish and the sides of good and evil were so obvious almost. And so I'm so excited for the future of this franchise because I don't know whether honestly I can trust Hagrid. I know he's been a good guy so far, but this scene and this film clearly shows that anyone can be like in that gray area of good and evil. So yeah, I don't know where he'll end up. We'll see.
I didn't really fall for like the villain bait of Hagrid because like the logistics of like 50 years ago he was at the school and was framed for opening a chamber that killed someone, and then like 50 years later like, oh, we'll just hire you over with the same guy who's still headmaster. So I was like, I didn't really get that.
But 50 years later, I think kind of learned that Dumbledore is still the only one that doesn't think Hagrid initially opened the chamber, correct? I mean, I think the school still think, and that's why he wasn't let back in to be a wizard. He's just kind of the groundskeeper now.
Can we say that Tom Riddle / Voldemort, is he in the gray area? Like, do we look at him as purely bad?
I think he's definitely great. I kind of agree. Like Harry looks like a bad guy to half the house there, right? So I think right now we're just seeing kind of one angle, but I really thought there could be a brighter and lighter side to him. So
I did not fall for Tom Riddle being in the gray area. I still think that he's bad. I mean, here's a guy that wants to kill anyone who's not a pureblood. I don't know. To me, that's someone that's got negative written all over him.
Did anybody understand like why he framed Hagrid? Like, do we understand that, correct?
I thought it was.
I don't understand that.
Yeah, I'm like 50-50.
Watching it this time, like I'm trying to put myself in your shoes, and I can see how it could be confusing, but I'm sure Charnel will give us a good explanation.
I don't know about that, but I do know that Tom is the one who opened it because we learned later that he's actually Voldemort. So because Tom is the one who opened the door in the first place, he wants to put it on someone else, obviously, to deflect. So that's why I believe that all happened, is because Tom had to find a scapegoat because it was him.
But more importantly, if he had not presented Dumbledore with a scapegoat, the school would have closed and he would have gone back to his shitty life, So it was someone doing something that was bad and then realizing if he continues doing that, then he's going to lose something that he loves. Hagrid, you're an easy scapegoat. I'm throwing it on to you.
I thought it was a great way to kind of show us a little bit of the history of Hogwarts and take us back, rather than just someone telling a story. We had this cool diary. Am I the only one that wanted something like that, to be able to talk to someone in the past?
It shows like Harry goes into this world of Tom Riddle's memory, thoughts, whatever he wrote in the book or his diary. And we see a lot of parallels between Tom and Harry. He doesn't have a home to go to if Hogwarts gets closed. And then when Dumbledore asked, "Oh, do you have anything to tell me?" He's like, "No, I don't." Similar like what we saw with Harry. So I kind of liked it. It was a little bit of foreshadowing going on.
With Dumbledore knowing everything, it's like that parent-child relationship where the child has done something wrong, and I have a lot of experience with this. I was a huge troublemaker as a kid and still kind of am as an adult, but it's like you know you've done something wrong, and the parent who knows exactly what you've done asks you or says something to you about the thing that you did. It is that exact same situation and relationship.
Throughout this movie, you do get a sense that Dumbledore knows more than what he's letting on. He asks both Tom and Harry if there's anything else they'd like to tell him. They both declined, but he seems unconvinced. He knows deep down that Hagrid is not responsible for the Chamber's resurgence, and it's clear that he sees Harry and Ron under the invisibility cloak in Hagrid's hut. However, the counter argument is he knows nothing about what's going on. I mean, there's a monster petrifying his students. He doesn't know the location to where the secret chamber is. And he doesn't publicly, at least, condemn Mr. Malfoy as being the one to slip the diary in Ginny's pocket, which started all the chaos in the first place. So which is it? Does Dumbledore know everything or does he know nothing? You should see a poll on your screen. Please click either A, he knows everything, or B, he's bluffing. Okay, really interesting results. 89% of the panel says he knows everything, and 11% of the panel says he's bluffing. So who said he's bluffing? Raise your hand. Chris, why does Dumbledore not know anything?
I mean, I don't think he doesn't know nothing. I just think he is good at what he knows. Being in the military, you know, I have a CO and we're in a submarine, and you hope that your leader knows everything, because if he or she does not, you're fucked, right? And I think the similar situation is likely that CO doesn't know everything who's running that command, but he needs to portray that he does so that you have the trust within the herd to go forward. And you know what? Eventually, every person who does know everything doesn't know everything. And then that's when you see chaos or whatever might happen. And I think from a story perspective, I think that's where the story's heading, given that it's a story. You can't always know everything and be the good guy. Eventually, I think he fails.
And I'll relate it to my career. I had when I was studying to be a pharmacist, a great pharmacist that I was studying under told me, he said, when you go out there and you recommend a product over the counter, he said, you can't pull 2 or 3. He's like, even if you're going to try to explain why A might be better than B or it's better than C, he's like, you go to one, you put it in their hand and you say, this is what's best, because you have to exude this confidence that you know what you're talking about. So that person will continue to come back and they don't want to go somewhere else because they don't trust what you have to say.
Kiana, do you think that Dumbledore will remain the headmaster of Hogwarts throughout the franchise?
I'd like him to, because like everybody is saying, like, he is a really good leader. He does listen to all the sides, but I mean, they're setting him up to be too perfect and too safety. Like, he's that safety figure for everybody. And I think it's just, even though we're on only the second movie of 8 or 9 or however many there are, like, you can tell like shit's gonna hit the fan, and not even Dumbledore is going to be able to help them. And whether that he's because he's in power or because he's not in power, and that's the reason why he can't help, I definitely think it's coming around the corner in the next like 2 or 3 movies.
Just like a movie has 3 acts, I feel that the movies as a conglomerate have a third act where, like, you don't plan on something happening, like Kiana said, that something Dumbledore, he doesn't have the powers you thought he had or whatever it is, and then shit just all goes haywire. So it's up to Harry, in my opinion, to kind of fix things.
Actually, there's one thing that Dumbledore said. Can I say this in the movie?
Yeah.
That kind of walked away with, and it like really stuck out to me. It was when he was talking to Harry after like that Phoenix just like went up in flames, and he said, "It's not our abilities that choose who we are, but our choices." That quote right there really struck a chord.
That quote to me proves why I do think Dumbledore knows everything, but his goal is to mold these young wizards into something else. They have to be the one that make the choices. They have to be the one that find how to solve the problem, to slay the demon. So I think that quote to me proves that he knows everything, and he's just the perfect headmaster, the perfect teacher to mold these people into who the future wizards.
I'm very glad that you guys both brought up that quote, because I found that quote to be super interesting as well. So let's just look at that scene and then discuss.
I sense something is troubling you.
I couldn't help but notice certain similarities between Tom Riddle and me. So the Sorting Hat was right. I should be in Slytherin.
It's true, Harry. You possess many of the qualities that Voldemort himself prizes. Why then did the Sorting Hat place you in Gryffindor?
Because I asked it to.
Exactly, Harry. It is not our abilities that show what we truly are. It is our choices.
One of the things that we talked about in the first panel was the hat's indecision of which house to put Harry in. Did anybody else catch that?
100%. And it got me thinking further about my good versus evil gray area thing, because as this film franchise goes on, I'm just excited to see, again, how it all blurs and how these qualities that are fantastic also have their downsides. I think that's what this demonstrates. Yeah.
I think it made it more clear that Harry was supposed to be in Slytherin, and the only reason he wasn't was because of his choice.
I just kind of want to get a little bit philosophical right now. Outside of the world of Harry Potter, Dumbledore brings up the two ways of looking at the world. You either have fate or free will. So either one believes they have all the choices that they make in life. They have the free will to decide what their destiny, what their future is. But the other way of thinking is, no matter what you decide to do, fate has been kind of set before you were even born. The decisions that you are going to make were always determined. And so just kind of curious as to how y'all see the world. Which do you believe? Do you believe in free will, or do you believe in fate/determinism? Really interesting results. 67% of this panel said free will and 33% said fate. So raise your hand if you said fate. Logan, start us off. Why do you prescribe to the fate way of thinking?
I don't know. I was trying to think really hard about it, and I don't know. My brain can't like wrap around it.
Just to make it perfectly clear, free will is there is no blueprint. I'm making my own decisions. I'm creating this path. I'm creating the timeline. But determination/fate is I might think I'm making my own decisions, but I'm not. The second I was born, and all the decisions that I'm making along the way, those were always going to be the decisions that I made. It's actually not me making it. It's the higher power.
I'm getting a lot of Doc Brown from like Back to the Future Part 3 vibes right now.
Yeah, I'm probably more along the lines of like a blurred middle. I'm not religious by any means, but I do believe there is a universe that kind of guides you to where it needs to.
There's no straddling the fence. I'm 100% fate. It's empowering. I mean, it's basically you're going to do things a lot faster than you think you would have done if you have to weigh in there's limited space in my head because of college. And I want to take away a lot of that thinking and just say, okay, you've weighed the odds. You know what the pros and cons are. Just go with it. Just step off that cliff and make it happen.
And then people who are more of the free will camp.
You know, there's the expression, everything happens for a reason. I don't believe in that. I think everything happens and we apply reason, because the exact same thing can happen to two people. And it's who those people are that ultimately decides where to go with those things that are dealt.
Ben, you were nodding your head.
Yeah, that was beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Adam. I think that we have the freedom to pick fate. Like, we can choose to believe in predestination and all that stuff. But yeah, it would be wrong of me to, as a 23-year-old think, oh, everything's planned out for me. I in my mind, want to think that there's, a world of expansive possibilities awaiting me.
I'm somebody who is entirely free-willed. Like, the decisions I make in my life, I take very seriously because I know they are very important. They're leading me to like a life that I want to live. I'm making these decisions for a reason. I think that's empowering when you know that everything is in your control and you have the ability to just change the course of your life. But with that being said, perhaps that control is just a perceived control. It just depends on how you look at it.
I think they coexist. I think what you perceive or what you do as free will has been predetermined.
I definitely see where Ben and Zach are going. I mean, I have made choices that I want to stand behind and say, that's where I am. That's why I'm successful in life. But I can really think back to possibly like 3 or 4 decisions in my life that were so huge that if I had chosen the other way, my life would be completely different. And why? Was it fate that led me that one way? I mean, like my entire family was based on one decision. After church one day, I went up and spoke to this girl that I had seen in class and thought was cute. Come to find out, she was moving back to New Jersey the next week. Had I not done it at that exact moment, she is now my wife, and I have 2 great kids from it. She is the one that encouraged me to go to pharmacy school. You know, like my
But
life
DJ,
would be completely different.
But DJ, to Brett's point though, is that your choice to go up to them,
right?
Go up to her, or is it fate that puts her right there in the church for you to go up to her?
Correct. And that's why I totally say I fall in the middle, because it was my choice, and I've made a lot of other fantastic choices, and I made some really poor ones. But was that fate that she was there, or that for some reason my brain said, go do this today, because I wasn't the kind of guy that went up to a girl that I had never really spoken to much before and said, hey, let's go out on a date.
There's so many stimulus that hit you every day. What made DJ look this way at that girl at that time? That's what I'm saying. It is fate. It is 100% fate. There's definitely free will, but I think fate is actually part of that free will.
My mom always told me, and still tells me, because I'm 22, I'm going through that, what the hell am I doing with my life, and all those other things you need to figure out when you're younger. And she always tells me, one door closes, but another door opens, but you get to choose what you do with that. So whether I walk through that door or I say, fuck it, I'm going to go through the window, I get to choose that. But I do think there's an element of fate saying, you don't want that door, here's another door, here's a window, here's a ladder for you to climb, and I get to choose kind of what I want to do with that.
The sorting happens in the womb, right? Do we wear a sorting hat in the womb? I guess that might follow on. I don't know. Well, yeah, it's the point in which all of this decision making has happened, right? And that's probably why Harry Potter is so interesting, is because kind of as Kiana just said, like all of the characters are in the moment of their lives where they're still figuring everything out. So there's not only this sense of the lore and, oh, you need to fit into Hogwarts and be your Gryffindor self, but there's also these people trying to find who they are. And there's that, back and forth in their minds.
Well, one character who certainly is trying to find out who they are is one that we've already discussed this evening, and his name is Dobby. Throughout the entire film, he is under the rule of Mr. Malfoy, but by the end of the movie, he might finally have a little sense of self. Let's take a look back at our last scene of the evening and then discuss.
I think you slipped the diary into Ginny Weasley's cauldron.
Come, Dobby.
Master has given Dobby a sock.
What? I didn't...
Dobby is free.
You lost me, my servant!
I'm supposed to ask you to get your sock ready to send to me, so I can be free from ever watching another Harry Potter movie.
Well, I guess I can't give you the sock then, Brett.
Yeah.
What? All right.
Unless you really...
That'll be our Christmas present from you next year. All of us.
Okay. Yeah. You send it to me. That would be
Unless
fantastic.
you really want me to give you that sock, but you're just too much fun. I can't give you that sock.
All right. I'll stick it out.
Jumping back to like the very first question, I'm a proud Dobby hater. I did not care for him the entire thing, but like then I was like, okay, like that was kind of deserved, because like the Malfoys, their whole family is just trash. Like I don't know why a grown man is attacking a preteen boy. Like girl, bye. But I like this scene. I liked it.
No, I didn't. Well, I still didn't like Dobby after this scene. And I don't know what it was. Maybe the line, never try to save my life again, is telling to how useful of a servant he might be.
I agree.
Ben, what does Dobby have to do to win your love?
I want money. And I don't want to see him on my screen again.
All right. So the Dobby lobby will come in and they'll pay you off, and then you'll change your opinion really quickly. Let's talk about Lucius though in this scene.
I don't even know who the actor is who plays him, but he just perfectly, like if I knew the dad of Malfoy and who he was, I would pick that guy. That's his dad, even without you saying it. He was amazing at that part. Yeah, just super, just icy, just ice.
You could almost really feel what Slytherin was all about by seeing him. You know, it gave that narrative. It kind of fed into that narrative that Slytherin is bad and evil.
What's going on with the other two houses? We don't hear anything about them. I forget they exist.
So, I mean, it's like the politics. You got these parties in between. Like Canada, we got like tons. It's like these middle parties where they're just chilling. They're not fucking bugging anybody. You know, I think that's the two houses I would want to be in. Is it's like put me in one of those two, and like life is chill. You know,
William, don't spoil it. But do they ever play a part in any of these movies? These other two houses?
How do I answer that without spoiling it?
Just say maybe.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. But I don't want to get too much off subject. We're going to get to the zooming out in just a moment, but a little bit more on this Lucius character.
One of the things that I picked up in the movie is the role of the parents, which you don't see in the first one, whether it's like generational trauma or generational ideologies passed down from, you know, one group to the next. I think that's my big takeaway from this.
I think it really plays into the nature versus nurture big debate that like which one wins, and we can really see with Draco being the son of Lucius, it's nurture. Like I'm pretty sure it's Lucius, obviously he doesn't like non-pure bloods and all this stuff, so he passed that on to Draco, and we can see that now going through his, and that's kind of his defining character. So we really see the nurture aspect.
This whole Mudblood kind of thing coming in, I almost feel like it's overall almost like social commentary for not it doesn't have to be just racism, but just something about where they're not like us, therefore they're bad. That is an overall commentary, social commentary about that. You're actually really learning something that some really important, not even lessons, but things to think about and really to talk about. Again, it just hit me in that way, and not only just racially, just overall when people are considered different and how we don't accept them because of one reason or another. And this is just telling you, that's not right. And see, these bad guys, they believe that.
Obviously, I think the franchise and the series says a lot about a lot of things, but I think one of the things it discusses or talks about is the passing down of knowledge, and whether that comes from academics, which is what the school represents. It's rooted in a school for a reason, or whether it's the teachings of parents or past generations in terms of what our children are supposed to believe and what ideologies they have and whatnot. I think at its core, and I could be totally wrong, but at this stage in the game, that's what I think the series is about. So whether it's things about sexuality or racism or all those kinds of stuff, it's where are you getting, as a child, where are you getting this information from? Are you going to adopt it because it's what's being taught to you or passed down to you? Or are you going to make your own realizations and your own thoughts in life, going back on the whole thing about fate versus free will?
That's why I really kind of love the Gryffindors for this kind of like hodgepodge of diversity of who they are and where they come from and how that comes together and how that kind of beats the Slytherins on that front. But that is really kind of, I think, what Malfoy's learnings have been. And it almost, I didn't even not dislike the little one after I saw all that with the older one, because it's like, that is what he knows, and you only know what you know. And so it actually didn't make me hate him nearly as much as I did as I started to learn who his father was. So
Charnel, I'm interested hearing your perspective when it comes to this. Like when you, being someone who isn't white on this panel, like, do you look at, say, younger people who might have old views passed on from people that, are older than them from generations? Like, obviously their beliefs and their thoughts are bad, but do you also weigh that in as like, okay, they probably have parents that are ignorant, so therefore I can't put my same, you know what I'm saying?
No, I thoroughly understand what you're saying. I actually have talked about this with someone else recently, even in relation to relationships, like parent to child relationships, and how they develop, and how a lot of what you are is because of what your parents have been.
Yes.
you. And then, for example, having issues with my mom and just now realizing, well, my mom's dad was an asshole. And she experienced this. This was her experience growing up. And this is why she is the way she is. And then that is why it's so this is exactly the same scenario. So yeah, good question, because that's exactly how I feel, where a lot of things you got to sometimes look to how the parents are, and then you learn that's why this person is the way they are.
Yeah, that's so well said. I mean, it's so true that, and to put it simply, we are a product of our environment. Like many of you guys have probably heard this quote that we are the average of the 5 people that we hang out with most. The things that we do in our lives and the perspectives that we have are more often than not taught to us, right? Like you're not born disliking somebody else for the color of their skin. You know, all of that stuff is taught to you. So yeah, you can really learn a lot about somebody, and especially the characters, not only in this film and other films, but characters in our lives. You can learn a lot about how they treat people that are different than they are. So I think we're learning a lot about Lucius from that information alone.
What Harry does well is he stands up to it. It's saying that isn't right. These are good people. And I think that's what really kind of spoke to me as this young boy of Harry standing up and being that person for some of these folks that weren't looked at as the pure or the great wizards or witches. And so these kids are also seeing the same and feeling the same struggles that a lot of other young people are feeling in any type of culture or city around, you know, North America at least. So
for me, that was probably one of the biggest takeaways I took, or like the message that I felt like this movie was trying to portray, was seeing where the parents were handed down this hatred to Malfoy. And I know we like to do these predictions of what's to come. My prediction right now would be that at some point Malfoy is going to break from his father's mold, and he's going to either stand up for Hermione or stand up for Harry.
All right, we've discussed almost all of the prominent new characters that were introduced in this film. We've talked about Lucius, we've talked about Dobby, but before we wrap things up tonight, it's only fitting that we mention the new Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher, Gilderoy Lockhart. So what do we think of this new character?
He's like a used car salesman.
Yeah.
He just, you know what I mean?
From his first opening scene, it was obvious he was a fraud. Harry had to spend detention, helping him sign autographs.
It's fan mail, yeah. Yeah, that is a nut.
I was wondering for most of the movie why he was even there. I guess until the end, I was just like, why is this incompetent guy, obviously painfully obvious incompetent wizard? Why do they have him in here?
Again, back to Dumbledore knowing everything. If he knows everything, then why hire a fraud?
I was just about to say that, like, obviously we can see right through his bullshit. So like, you think Dumbledore is smart enough to see through this poser, but.
And that's what I was saying. He doesn't know everything.
But he wants his students to see through him. I
That's what I was going to say. Maybe he's like, I need it to happen.
This Dumbledore guy really has a weird way of educating his students.
Mind games.
Anybody else with this character?
That it was so convenient that Ron never replaced his wand. Like, wow.
Is it convenient or is it just clever writing?
Or was it fate?
It's fate.
Or was it fate?
Smoking gun. Yeah.
Wow, we just wrapped that into a nice little bow. Okay, it's prediction time. Who wants to make some predictions about where this franchise is heading?
Even darker, because they're getting older. That now I think we'll see somebody actually die. Will we see somebody die? Like somebody that we would be sad of dying, maybe?
I think the romance should be coming in soon. I don't know.
100%.
Maybe this round.
That awkward almost hug.
No, exactly.
That definitely like sealed the deal.
Can I piggyback off of Brett's romance? Because I think Ginny and Harry got something started here too.
Interesting. What makes you say that?
Harry's girl is the crying chick in the bathroom.
That was Harry with a wig on, wasn't it? I mean, did that not look like Daniel Radcliffe with a wig?
It did look alike. I did think that.
There actually is a meme where it has his face on her body, so you're not completely wrong. What makes you think Harry and Jenny?
Just we saw the little bit of spark, in the. Well, I guess to me it was an unneeded scene early on when Harry goes to their house, and I saw, she comes downstairs and she's in awe and almost like the twinkle in her eyes when she saw Harry, and then he's there to save her at the end of the movie. He's her knight in shining armor. So.
Yes.
Well, I want to disagree with DJ because I have an older brother who has obviously friends, and I've crushed on all of them. And so I'm pretty sure I've had that twinkle. Doesn't mean like nothing ever happened. So I think it's just the fact that it's the younger sisters, like, ooh, so I don't think that's going to happen.
Come on, Kiana, it's free will, make it happen.
This isn't really a prediction, but I was missing my smart little know-it-all Hermione. So I'm hoping she plays a bigger role in the next one because like she wasn't in this movie, and I don't know. I wanted to.
She was
see
a little
her crazy
stiff in this one. Get it?
You're missing your Hogwarts doppelganger, the one.
I know. I was excited to see myself on screen.
Lucius will lose his golden locks. They're just so beautiful. It felt like a Neutrogena ad at times. So yeah, I expect him to be ablaze. But also Dobby will win me over. That's my other prediction.
Copy that.
Someone from Gryffindor will turn and go Slytherin, or someone from Slytherin will turn and go Gryffindor.
I need some more Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw representation in these movies. Okay, I hope they have at least like one person like who's prominent in the story from one of the houses. Like, we need to see more of them. That's what I want. That's what I hope.
You heard it here, J.K. Rowling. We want more representation from Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw. Come on. Let's make this movie more diverse. Okay, now that we kind of have a pulse on your feelings about the movie, let's get to the review. Instead of a 1 to 5 rating system, we will now be moving towards a 1 to 10 rating system. Each of you has sent me your ratings for this movie, 1 to 10, 1 meaning you hated it, and 10 being you absolutely loved it. I have averaged all the numbers together, and it is time for me to reveal the results. Tonight, Panel has rated this movie as a 5.3.
I hated it. I think what struck me from the very, very beginning was, the kids aren't cute anymore. They're in that in-between stage of between cute and like cool, relatable teenagers. And I cannot follow this story for the life of me. I still don't know what a Dumbledore is. For somebody who does not, for somebody who doesn't know the lore of the franchise, I found the first one much better at just holding my attention.
The first movie was kind of more fresh, where we went through the progression, kind of like Disney has a formula that they do to success. I would imagine this series has the same thing. Like, hey, let's all show ourselves going to school. Let's get there. Let's have some controversy. Let's find some kind of chamber or something to get into. And at the end, let's all just have an owl fly in and save the day or whatever the hell it is or something. But it all seems very predictable from 1 and 2. Just 1 was the first time I had seen it.
The first movie dragged on for so fucking long. Mm-hmm. I couldn't sit through. Where this one, like, yes, it was longer, but like stuff was happening, and like I don't know if it was because the material was darker, or because I had to pay attention a little bit more because the actual brightness was darker. But I didn't think the first movie gave me anything, where this second movie really, it gave me stuff to want to watch and continue watching.
Yeah, I totally agree. Watching the second one doesn't really mean much to us unless we know all the information that happens in the first one. So the first movie is kind of just setting the scene. There's not like a whole lot of craziness that happens. But in the second one, there's, we learn about this new world. In the first one, in the second one, we kind of get to see all of the craziness of this world play out.
There's more of a story to this one. That first one, it was just so much setting up. It was so boring. It drug on so much. And while this one wasn't short on that either, especially at the beginning, there was more for me to get into, the story to follow. I don't know obviously what happens in the other ones, but I do know kind of the titles of the future movies to be introduced to the Phoenix. I know there's a movie that's got Phoenix in the title, to hear that Hagrid was sent off to this prison. And I know there's a movie titled like The Prisoner of Azkaban or whatever.
The next one.
Is it so to get these kind of things that we're starting to see pieced together and pulled together? I really appreciated that. And Dobby.
As much as I like this movie, I'm way more excited to watch the next movies and to see kind of how it goes from there and how much better I think it will be. So I'm hoping the next movies reach the level that my mind has built them up to be.
Same.
Well, that concludes today's discussion on Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Come back next month to hear what some of these panelists and more have to say about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, my personal favorite of the franchise, but that's neither here nor there. I would like to thank the panelists for giving me their time tonight, and to the viewers watching at home, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. We are also on the podcast app, so type "Who Needs a Film Critic" to get your episodes downloaded straight to your phone. That's all for now. Have a magical, magical evening. Signing out.
Send me my sock, William.